Okay, good evening. Can everyone see my full screen, the presentation and us talking?
Yeah, drag me off.
Let me see if I can do that. Mark has left the meeting. Casey, you still here?
I'm still here.
Okay, I wonder if Mark is, where is he?
There he is.
Mark, you there?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. We're just making sure. Okay, so we'll get started tonight. So welcome, and we'll look at, we're going to take a look at tonight grade 2 for our winter Title I night. And with you tonight, you have myself, Mike Dunn, your principal, and you have Casey Macbeth, our literacy coach. The agenda for this evening is that I'm going to give you an overview of the IRIP process and identification we use in Buchanan and the current interventions that we are currently doing this year. And then Casey is going to give us an overview of some at-home literacy skills, strategies that you can do at home that should have a huge impact with your second grade learner. So let's get started. So here at Moccasin, we are following the state guidelines that we're to look at students who are not at grade level, and we have to do 2 assessments. There's a primary and a secondary assessment, so it's like a filter. You go through one layer and then another layer, and they have to be identified. They have to be not at benchmark or on grade level in either one or both a primary, secondary assessment. And that's a little confusing with the state language, but the way we do it is that we start with NWEA as the primary assessment, and then we filter through and take a look at the DIBELS assessment. And so the kids who are not at benchmark and NWEA automatically go on the list, and then we filter again, and if you are not at benchmark again at grade level with DIBELS, then now you are identified for an IRIP. An IRIP is an individual reading. It's an individual reading intervention plan for students, and it's really supposed to be designed at an individual level for what they need. And it's to pretty much just highlight and inform parents that, hey, your student is struggling with reading, and we need to take this seriously because eventually this is going to be a problem. And in third grade, this is where this law has some meat to it, where eventually in third grade, if you are on an IRIP and you don't pass a state assessment, an MSTEP, you are then potentially going to be retained. And in third grade, we'll talk a little more about that process and some of the ramifications. But right now, this serves as a warning to everybody, to the educators, to the parents, that, hey, make sure we're doing everything we can so this student can get on grade level to read. Because as we all know, if students aren't reading at grade level, then they're going to not be successful, and we need them to be successful in everything they do. So how do we work on getting them to be successful? Because we know not everyone is at the same place in time, and we all struggle. We all have different strengths, and for some, math is a strength, whereas reading is not. And so we take that seriously, and we look at each grade level having its own intervention time, looking at what kids need, what skills, and then giving a dedicated time to work on that. So for our reading intervention, it's 4 to 5 times a week, and why that might be 4 versus 5, we have to stop and do spot checks on students to make sure that they're making progress, and we call that progress monitoring. So that might be 4 times in a week, with the 5th day doing a spot check. The time is 30 minutes, as close as possible to 30 minutes for each of that times, and that's done through the classroom teachers and their interventionists. And the interventionists, we're very fortunate to have 2 retired teachers who know and have taught reading. And we're very fortunate this year and on to have a literacy coach who's highly effective, highly certified, and knows reading better than anybody that I know. So we have these high quality staff who are considered interventionists working with our students, which is excellent. And then in addition to that reading intervention, those interventionists actually push into the reading block time. So there's only so many classes with so many people, so we're very blessed that we can push in. And so we're looking at 2 times a week for each teacher with 60 minutes. And that is dedicated to very direct, explicit instruction, working with small group, and again, with kids who need the help. These interventions are focused on those 5 key components of reading. And for those who may not know, it's phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and phonemic awareness. Now, for our level, we typically don't see phonemic awareness as an area, but with COVID and the pandemic and the closure, we know kids are coming in 2nd grade not having some basic skills in phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness is pretty much just the sounds and the blending of sounds, and making sure you know that a letter has a sound and those sounds come together to form different sounds and eventually they form words. And I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I'm thinking, Casey, did I get that right? Did I?
Yes, I think you're very closely aligned there with what I would say. And in a few moments, we have a video that we'll share that will also reinforce some of that information you just shared.
Thank you, because I know it's been a while since I've had the K1, K2 focus, so we tend to be more phonics on forward. So it's been a while about phonemic awareness. And then this year with COVID, we've tried to do our best to cohort our intervention groups as much as possible, keeping them with their grade level teachers. And only when needed, we kind of pull kids out in very small groups, working with them and mixing them. And again, following the guidelines with masking and social distancing. So again, that's been a hard workaround this year because of COVID, but we're making it work, and actually we're seeing some progress with that. Casey, you want to add anything else to our reading intervention?
No, I think you covered that fully.
So the question is, what can you do at home? Because really it takes a village. We can't just do it all at school, and if they're already behind, they're going to need as much time as possible. So Casey, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of walk us through some at-home literacy.
Okay, so as Principal Dunn mentioned, that there is a lot of work being done with phonemic awareness right now because we came in kind of behind after missing part of the school year last year. And with 1st grade, that was really critical. So for our 2nd graders, we had to backtrack a little bit and say, what do we need in place here to address the issues that we're seeing with our students? And looking at some research-based ideas, we saw that phonemic awareness might be the way to go. And so we want to make sure that you understand what that is. And I always tell the kids, it's just, we're going to play with words and we're going to play with the sounds and words. And so that's something that I think parents can do with their children at home. So if we'll take a look at this video that Principal Dunn will have for us, it will give us a good explanation for what phonemic awareness is.
Mr. Dunn, I don't hear any sound.
I'm sorry. We'll try that again. Did it not? I think the issue with that is, let me try presenting just the tab.
I think that's what you have to do.
Where are you all? There you are. Present. Sorry for the delay. Okay, we'll try this again. And
Phonemic awareness is
was everyone hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you for pointing that out. We want everyone to be able to hear this.
Phonemic awareness is the understanding that spoken words are made up of individual sounds called phonemes. A child who is phonemically aware understands that words are made up of sounds. However, a child who has phonemic proficiency is able to isolate sounds, blend, segment, and manipulate the individual sounds in words. Because sounds are co-articulated when we speak, it is not natural to hear the individual sounds in words. Instead, students need explicit instruction to be able to reach phonemic proficiency. Phonemic awareness is often the missing piece for so many of our readers. As Marilyn Adams states, the lack of phonemic awareness is the most powerful determinant of the likelihood of failure to read. It is important for students to understand that the words we hear when we speak are made up of individual sounds, and we can blend, segment, and manipulate those sounds. Children with this understanding will be able to transfer it to print, helping them read and spell more words.
Okay, thank you, Principal Dunn. I think that video highlighted nicely the things that we will do with phonemic awareness to help your children be more proficient with reading. And one of the resources that we pulled that we're using in the district is Haggerty, who is a research specialist in phonemic awareness. And there are 7 different activities that take a total of about 15 minutes that all second grade children are being exposed to every day. And what they're asked to do is isolate beginning sounds, isolate ending sounds of words, also make substitutions, so changing the beginning sound of a word or the ending sound of a word. And we delete sounds, but the higher level skills are substituting sounds, deleting sounds, and adding sounds. And one big ask that I have of the second grade parents is that something that you would try at home as well as us working on it at school. And if Principal Dunn could share the sheet that was on the PowerPoint, it has some examples of ways you can work on deleting sounds when working on phonemic awareness.
All right, can we all see the sheet?
Yes.
So I've put together several sheets that kind of give a brief description of what a parent would say and what the child's response would be. And so we have several pages that we'll be sending home to especially the parents of children that have IRIPs. And if there are any other second grade parents that are interested, we'd be happy to send those home with you as well. So this is an example of deleting sounds. As the parent, you would just ask your child, say the word beg. Mr. Dunn, would you play along?
Yes.
Say the word beg.
Beg.
Say it without the buh.
Egg.
And so you're working, I want to point out there, without really any print in front of the student or your child. So they're listening to the sounds and not looking at them in print. I'll do another example. As a parent, you would say the word bat.
Bat.
Say bat without the buh.
At.
And you could do the same thing for a substitution. So that was an example of a deletion, but you could do the same thing for a substitution. And I would say the word bat.
Bat.
Change the buh to a k.
Cat.
You can also ask your child just to count the sounds in a word. So if I said the word cart, Mr. Dunn, how many sounds do you hear in cart?
Cart. 1.
Oh no, Mr. Dunn, there's more than one sound.
Art. Is that 3?
That's 3 sounds. And so that's the isolation of counting. And one thing I always point out with the second grade children is that if you can't hear those sounds when you see them in print. Lots of times you can't read those sounds. So working on phonemic awareness helps children to be able to hear the sounds in words and understand that it takes multiple sounds to build words. And so that flows very nicely into phonics instruction that we really want to focus on in 2nd and 3rd grade.
Mrs.
As I
Mrs.
said-
Macbeth,
Yes.
Mrs. Macbeth, how many words would you say you'd like a parent to work with at night? And I'm guessing you're asking them to pick words off that right side of the chart there, right? The initial sounds.
I've provided a list of words there just to kind of help you get going, but there's no right or wrong words to use.
Okay.
Sometimes you just get stumped in thinking of them, so that's why I wanted to provide the list of words. But this can be something as simple as 5 to 10 minutes. It can be during your car ride to and from a practice or going to go grocery shopping. It's not something that you have to sit down and commit 20 or 30 minutes to. We're only spending 15 minutes at school doing this as a whole group, and your child may get more as an intervention or a follow-up, but I'm not asking you to do any more than that at home. I would say 10 to 15 minutes would help be a great reinforcer for what they're getting at school.
Thank you.
And Casey, when they do, because they'll want to still read at night or want to read with their child, they could that's something they can do with some of the kids when they read, right? And they see the words in their
Absolutely. So if your child gets stuck on a word, you could kind of tell them the word, but instead of just telling them, after you tell them, say, how many sounds did you hear in that? So what letter did it start with? You're just kind of anchoring that work back in the sounds of the words instead of just blurting it out for them. It gives them something to recall if they encounter that word again in the future. So we have several sheets that will come home with your student that will give you examples of deleting sounds, substituting sounds, and adding sounds. It will look just like that sheet that Principal Dunn shared on his screen. And if you run out of words and are having problems coming up with them on your own, I'll be happy to send another list home.
Great. And I know you're doing some of this work with our kids already. You want to take just a minute and speak to some of the success we're seeing, not just with you, but as the other 2nd grade teachers are actually rolling this out?
Yes, I've had a lot of feedback that one of the problems that we encounter with 2nd grade readers is that they can sound each letter out, but then when blending the word, they struggle. So they're able to look at the word cat and go at, but then they can't get back and get all those sounds put back together. And when you really focus on phonemic awareness, it helps the child develop a spot in their brain where they can hold all 3 of those sounds and then put them together. Because when children are struggling, what they do is they get that at, and then they can't remember what was that first sound again, and they just get stuck in that repeated sounding each individual letter out. And we're seeing that working on the phonemic awareness is really helping children blend words when they're seeing them in print.
Great. All righty. Well, thank you for that. And to, again, all of our parents, we appreciate you taking a chance to look for this and do this with your students. Hopefully you'll see it's not hard. This is pretty simple, easy work that you can do. It can be done, on the trip home. Even if it's only 5 minutes on the trip home, or it's breaking up a long car ride to grandma's, and you're doing this every 20, 30 minutes you want to break it up. Again, it's just a great little way, and it has such a huge impact with them learning how to say the sounds and the letters and putting it together, because then they get that pattern when they start reading.
And Principal Dunn, I find that once they get good with shorter words, they want those challenge words and longer words. It feels very game-like to them and playing. So I always tell them, we're just going to play with words today.
And I have to say, I love, that's one of my favorite parts, watching and observing, because they do get, you can see some of the struggling readers actually get into this, and they're doing it, and they're finding success. So, and you can see every once in a while you hear, can we have harder words? I've heard that in a couple of 2nd grade. They're like, can we have harder words? And they're like, okay, in a couple more lessons, yes, we will get, because the teachers are still learning to do this program. So they're trying to follow along. So, but but yes, but like with Casey, you hear that, and of course you're able to change that up and do that. So thank you for that very much. And again, as you have questions about, again, reading if you have questions about your status of an IRIP, just if you have questions in general, you've got some great people here. You've got your classroom teacher, you've got a literacy coach, Casey Macbeth, you got myself, Mike Dunn, your principal, and we will work with you to help you get the answers you need. So again, thank you for taking some time, and you guys all have a great night.
Thank you.
And let me stop in a second. Maybe. So now three little dots, sorry. This is what happens when you do that. I'm going to split my screen.